G'day everyone, me again, just going to take you through some more tutorial stuff within Avid. Now, I know that I'm showing you guys a heap of stuff through Avid, but this is information that you can transfer through to other less important and inferior programs like Premiere and Final Crash and things like that. But we're going to stick with Avid because, let's be honest, it's the best. So I'm going to take you through this, but I want you to understand that what I'm going to be showing you here is stuff that you can do in your own editing program if you want to disadvantage yourself by editing with something different. Okay, so here we go. I've been editing a little project in here for a client, and this is something that happens quite a lot. You'll do a video for a client and then they'll ask for changes and they'll ask for revisions and all that sort of stuff. As I've shown you in previous tutorials, it's really important to sort of date those revisions and changes. So as you can see, I've got a couple of dates running through here. I've also got version numbers, so version 2, 3, 4, 5, and up the top here we're back up to version 5, but it's called subs as well. So for this project, the client has wants a video that's going to be going on social media, and so we have a video that's a clean version without any sort of any text on the screen other than, of course, the person's name that's talking. And what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be doing a version with actual subtitles running along as they talk. So if you are going to be doing client videos, it's really important to think about what the message is they're trying to get across. Now, if I was to do subtitles for this, there's a lot of sort of personal, not important information in there. So let's just have a quick listen.
I wanted to work for an organisation that was really innovative. I've always gravitated to a role where I've been able to talk to people. So the reason I wanted to come and work...
So there we go. We've had a quick look at that where they're talking away. Now let's just go and have a look at the actual document I've created here. So instead of sort of letting her, I want to work with I wanted to work for a company that's really innovative, want to work for an innovative company. So essentially just cherry picking the key things, the key messages that the person's trying to get across. And I've just quickly typed that into a Word document. So I've played the video through and just sort of put it together into a Word document. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret. I shoot a lot of commercials for broadcast and things like that. And if you are trying to get commercials on free-to-air television for broadcasting, then you need to make sure that you actually have a full script, a fully descriptive script of what's being said on camera. And look, to be honest, a lot of the times, especially when I'm working for particular clients where they'll have a personality or someone of note hosting the ad, that person will usually ad-lib and just sort of throw words in there and stuff like that. So you cannot sort of base yourself off the script that you initially had. And also, if you're doing something that's very sort of casual, you're going to be filming in different locations and filming people doing different things. That all needs to be scripted. Now, what I tend to do is I'll do the script after I've done the edit, because then it's exactly what is on the screen. And it is also a matter of being incredibly descriptive. So, saying things like, woman sitting on a green chair with a curly background in the background sort of thing. Now, that might not mean much to you guys, but it depends on where that ad is going to be going to in terms of classification. Because if you were doing something that was for children, then you're going to want to make sure that you spell everything out in your script. So then that way they know exactly what's going on in the script and exactly what's going on in the frame. It is really weird, I know, but when it comes to classification, they really desperately need to look at the scripts and make sure the scripts are exactly what's going on screen. And you need to be descriptive with that as well. So you can't get away with just sort of like, he said, she said, he said, she said, and so on. You've got to be really explanatory about what's going on in the scene and stuff like that. Anyway, digress. We just quickly talked about that little section there. Let's go back into this video here that I'm working on. So the client has said, Jed, that's great. I've done you've submitted a great video, but now we need to get you to do the subtitles for that video. Now, what I'm going to do here is, because it is going on social media, I'm going to remove the names of my subjects here, because it's going on social media, it's just talking heads. I'm going to put the subtitles in there. Now I'm going to pitch this to the client and see what they think. But I tend to do this because if you start to put more words underneath here, it becomes really wordy and it just starts to distract the audience from what the message is. So instead of reading the name of the person, no one really cares who this person is when they're looking at it on social media. And let's be honest, when you're watching videos on social media, you're watching them without sound. So the text needs to grab them. So getting the key messages across in that text is critical. So just really sort of highlighting key elements compared to what's actually being said in the video. So I'm going to be changing the text and, putting some subtitles in there. Now, as you can see, we've gone through and layered the audio like I did before with different colored audios and stuff like that. If you look up on top, we've got the video layered as well, okay? On the top track, I've got cutaway footage. So I've got little sort of, little B-roll sort of sections that sort of just block over and cover over any sort of edit points that I might have with my video there. So as you can see, there's some little edit points running through there. So that sort of is my B-roll section that covers those little sort of edit points, okay? But my B-roll sits on the top track. All right, that's going to stay there. I don't need to change it or anything like that. What I am going to do though is I want to get rid of the text of what the person's name is. So what you can see is if I go down and toggle down my views, this track here is where my text is. If I toggle down below it, it's now just that graphic overlay that sits above the text there. So I know that this track here is where all my text is sitting for those containers there. So I'm going to simply go through and grab this black space right here. I'm just going to drag it and drop it straight over the top of that text there. Now I'm not worried about doing that because as you can see up here, I've created a new sequence called subs, and this is the one I'm working with. So that means that I can sort of, remove that text and not feel like I'm actually removing that from the actual project. So double click on the sequence down below. There they are sitting in there right like that. Okay, so let's go back to the sub one. Okay, so we're back to the sub one here. So I've removed all the text. Let's scroll through. Yeah, it's looking good, looking good, looking good, looking good. Hang on, we've got a problem. I've got text in the back end of this clip here. Now, this was a pretty rough clip. I didn't have much time to get in there and shoot. It wasn't ideal a location. There was a lot of light streaming in through the windows, so I had to try and balance the image as best as possible. To be honest, I'm not entirely satisfied with it, but let's move on. I'm going to show you how I cheated this shot, okay? Because what I've actually got is 2 layers of video here, okay? And you might be able to notice if you look just around the edges of her head, you can see like a white bordering around her edges, okay? Now what this is here, and it's one singular track, is it's what you call a mixdown, okay? And here's a mixdown that I've just done because I was going to work on this right now, but I decided to show you a tutorial, so I'm going to go back and show you the steps of how I got to this point, okay? So going down to one of these original ones down here, as you can see, it's still got that clip in there. If I go down to this one here, so see how there's a video mixdown sitting here? I'm guessing that the one below that is the one that I need to work with. So I'm going to double tap on that one there. And here it is, okay? I can see that I've got a layer of content here. So why did I create a mixdown anyway? Well, look, the reason why I did is because my computer performance started to slow down when I was trying to work with this entire project from start to finish with all those files sitting in there. I know it's Avid, it never crashes, but in order to make sure that it doesn't crash, I thought the best thing I could do is a quick little mix down of that content. Once I edited it to the way that I wanted it, then I could just go straight in and export it. Like I knew that that's what I wanted, so I just got everything all together, did a video mix down. There's my video mix down right there, all nice and neat, and I can put it into the next timeline. And I won't get the glitchy sort of problems that I would have got if I had all those layers of effects and clips sitting in there. So what are those layers of effects and clips? Let's go back to that sequence and have a look. Okay, you might have noticed before when it was sort of the video track was turned down to the bottom, and when I toggled it up to the top, the image looked quite different. Okay, the first 2 tracks, they're my text overlays, they're my lower thirds that are sitting there. So my lower thirds text and my graphic overlay running through there as well, okay? The one below, and I've just picked up on something else here. All my other overlays, I've got a transparency to them, so I better do the same for this one here. So I'm just going to quickly go in. I'm just going to bring that transparency back to, say, 60%. Hang on, no. Now, the new version of Avid is doing something really funky and weird, and I'm sure it's something in the settings that I need to fix. But every time I go into my effects mode, it selects the effects track from the top. Okay, I don't want that effects track because that's the text. I want that to be 100%. It's the graphic overlay that I want to make more transparent. So I'm just going to go back to my level there. There we go. Just going to make it 60. There we go. Typed in 60 on my keyboard and it went to 60 there. And now it's going to look like all the others. So I'm going to need to do another export of that eventually because I made that mistake. So the top track is my text track. The second track is my overlay for my lower third. And the track below is where my effects are. Okay. Now let's have a look at what this effect is. Okay, so I'm going to go to my effects tool and it's a matte key. Okay. Now if I click on this space here, hang on, it's not a matte key. Okay, where are we? There we are. Here we go. I'm in my effects mode and it's an animate key. So if I click on this little space here, watch what happens. There's a yellow border going around her. Now if I zoom out of that, I've actually created a layer that sits around her. And then I've feathered that layer, so I've given it like a soft feathering, so it sort of blends into the shot behind it. So then that way I'm able to darken this background a bit more because it was blowing out. And let's have a look at it blowing out. That's what it looked like, so I'm just going to close this effects tool down so you can see it. That's what it looked like initially. Now, I thought that was a bit ugly. I wanted to see a bit more vibrance in the frame there. So by putting that extra layer on, I was able to do that. What did I do to that layer? Okay, let's have a look at it. We go back into that. Animate tool. There we go. There's my file there. So what I did first of all is I just matted out her and kept everything else in the frame. So I'm sitting this clip on top of that clip. This clip is the layer that I've created. And this clip here is the bottom track there. So they're two separate video tracks. Okay. Now, if I double click on this, I would then go into my color effects, my color correction effects. And that is where I've adjusted the colors to make it a bit more vibrant for the background. Okay. So just a quick little trick tip for layering your shots and stuff like that. Believe me, you'll have to troubleshoot things like this all the time. Okay. Now, what I was doing beforehand was I was trying to get a shot where I removed the text but kept the lower third background in place. So what I did there is, as you can see, I've got mark in and mark outs in that one exact clip. Okay, I'm going to get rid of her text because I don't want her text in that shot there. Okay, so that's gone. Now I'm going to select my tracks and make sure that my video track is just on top there like that. And now I'm going to go up to timeline and click on mixdown and do what's called a video mixdown. Now, video mixdown will then get all of these tracks that are sitting here and squish them down into one singular video track. Now, when you do a mixdown, you can't dive into the clips again and adjust the effects. Okay, so you must be pretty certain with what you've done and satisfied with it. So when you export it, it's done, ready to roll. Okay, so that's all good. I'm just going to click OK. Now, before I do, let's just quick have a look at this video mixdown sort of setting here. So what it's going to do is it's going to create another video clip with all of these graphic elements attached to it. The special effects, the lower third bar here, that sort of stuff, the coloring, all that. Okay, so first of all, I need to select a target bin. Now, as you can see, I've got recruitment video 1 bin 1. That's a legacy thing that when I first started up the project, that's what it created, and I've probably been using it for some rubbish, like just some clips that I haven't been using and stuff like that. Graphics, that's for my graphic overlays. Workspace is the folder or the bin that I'm working in, which is where I want the mixdown to go to. Coverage, that's your B-roll. Used is once you've done your interviews and your B-roll, you put everything into the used bin, and then that way you know what you've got left after that. Okay, we want it in the workspace bin. Target drive, make sure you set it to the correct target drive. Okay, I've got a few target drives in here. That's the one I want to work with. Resolution. Okay, so what it's going to do here is it's going to create a video file, but it's going to create a video file that's specific for Avid. It's going to be native to Avid. It's going to be the video file format that Avid most recognizes. And more often than not, these files are much larger than the actual files that come straight from a camera, because there's a level of compressing that the camera does with the file before it goes into the editing program. So as we've talked in class, and you know, we'll probably do a tutorial on it as well, when you go into an editing mode, chances are you can unpack your video files to get more access and more capabilities out of each of the video files. So we've got DNX HD 36, 85, 120, 185. That's the one I've chosen there. Okay, that's a pretty high res. You're not going to see any real difference between a completely uncompressed file. A completely uncompressed file is a one-to-one, where you're going, your percentages are one-to-one. Basically, your quality is that. It's going to be equal to video file. I'm not going to bother with that because I don't need to worry too much. It's going to social media. It's going to be full HD. I'm happy with that format there. Okay, we've got 1:1 10B, likewise 185x, x being the color bit rate, 10-bit, and likewise down here. Okay, happy with that. All right, now I'm just going to click OK. So now it's going to scan through and create that video mixdown. So I'm going to pause this for a moment. And would you believe it or not, it is now done the mixdown. Now, of course, it needs to create the video file. So it's going to take a little bit of time to create that video file. Now, depending on the complexity of the effects that you sit on top of this. Now, as you know, when you open up Avid, you could actually have like 16, 20, 25 video tracks sitting on top of each other. Now, if you imagine if you've got 4K video files and you've got them layering on top of each other, chances are your computer's going to have a really hard time trying to work with that footage here. I've shot in 4K here, and I'm actually using two video files here, two 4K video files. One 4K video file here sitting on top of the other 4K video file here. So of course, if I was to play these back normally, I'm going to start getting problems. Let's just have a look.
We want happy residents, that's a priority, and it's...
Now, as you can see, the sound's going, but the mouth isn't moving. We've automatically got these red bars sitting underneath here. That's telling me that I need to somehow render those files so they play back nicer, because they're not playing back right at the moment. Okay, I've digressed. We go up the top here and voila. We now have a video mixdown of that shot without the text in there. Okay, so the text is gone. Now, before I quickly go in and open up this sequence, there's one thing that I do need to do, and that is I need to Control Z. Okay, so I've undone deleting that text because I want to keep that sequence the same as what it was initially. Okay, so now I'm going to go up to my subs, and we're going to go back to what I was talking about before in terms of layering our video tracks. Okay, so we've got our B-roll here, we've got our empty tracks here that used to be where our names of our subjects were. So our names of our subjects were there, now they're not. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my subtitles, up to the top track here like that. And that's something we'll probably do in another class because I've chewed your ear off for so long today. We'll leave it for another class. But hopefully that's given you a bit more of an insight into the way we layer tracks, the way we work with media in terms of doing things like mixdowns and stuff like that. Well, as you can see, we've got this mixdown here, just quickly to show you. Oh, one other quick thing is, see how I've got my mark in and mark out to my timeline still here? Now, it's really important that you remove those marks before you go and start adding new marks in there. Now, believe it or not, I don't think I've got my remove marks here, but I have got it on my keyboard. If I press G on my keyboard, I've removed those marks. Now, the reason why it's important to do that, Control Z, is because if I get my playhead to this point here and I want to replace this video here with this video here, then when I try and do that, so I'm just going to got my playhead at the right spot, put my video track at the right spot, and then I press B for override, so I want to go over the top of that track. Watch what happens. For starters, it says insufficient source material to make that edit. The reason why it's saying that is because I've put a mark and a mark there, meaning you're telling the computer that you want to put the clip to go all the way through this section here. Now this section goes for almost 3 minutes there. This video track here goes for 6 seconds. Okay, so of course it's not going to fit within that space there. Okay, it'll fit within, say, this space here. So if that's the case, and you'd put a mark there and a mark there, happy days, okay? But that's not where I want it to go. I want it to go at the end here. Now, I'm lazy, okay? So I don't want to sort of worry about chucking things in here, there, and everywhere and putting marks and when I don't need to. I can just press G, have my playhead at the point where I want it, and I simply just go overwrite, and voila, it goes over the top of and deletes that clip that was initially there, okay? Now, if you wanted to go the complex, difficult way, then I'd put a mark in at that section of the clip, a mark out at that section of the clip, and now I'd overwrite, and it'd be in like Flynn there. Yeah, as I said, I didn't really want to do it that way with a mark in and a mark out. You'll notice that when I do that mark in, mark out, and insert it in or overwrite it in, it removes those marks after it's added the clip in there. Now, look, to be honest, those mark in and mark out points are helpful if there's a very specific shot that you want to remove and you don't want to remove anything else within the back of that timeline there, okay? Because if you do it the way that I just showed you, where you just select the clip, insert it like that, it could go over the top of 3 or 4 tracks and remove something there that's really important, okay? So that is why we use our marks, but for that section there, I didn't need it, okay? Oh, I hope I've given you more information, and I hope I haven't confused you like a bat out of hell. Anyway, let's stop recording.